You know, Jennifer, I have a picture inside of me. You're a young child. You're abandoned by your father. Mm-hmm. And I can just picture you walking up to strangers, strange men, and saying to them, "Are you my daddy?" That must have been a tough time for you.
That was what was repeated to me that I was doing at that time, just as a very young child, looking for my dad.
And your mom remarried. She married a Mormon, and so you became part of the Mormon church. You kind of had your period of rebellion. You drank, you did coke, and that's more than a period. That's a big period of rebellion.
Yeah.
How in the world did God get a hold of you?
It was a miracle, because I had no interest in Christianity at all. As a Mormon, naturally, they want you to stay in the Mormon church, so you're taught who to avoid. So we were taught to avoid Christians. And so becoming desperate, understanding that the Mormon church was not taking care of my problems. My uncle, he invited us to church, and he went to a Pentecostal church. That would be a far cry, the farthest thing that we would ever go to. But when you're desperate, you try things you would never try. And
if you're sinking in the ocean,
yeah.
You don't care who throws you a rope.
Exactly. So my mother and my half-sister and myself, my stepfather didn't come. We went to my uncle's church, and it was wild. It was everything you would think about as far as a traditional, old-style, vintage Pentecostal church.
You had zero grid.
No grid at all. They ran around the church in worship. They, the ladies didn't wear makeup. They believed that was holiness. And I sat there not even registering at all what the preacher was saying. And then what happened is he began to play on his guitar. And he sang to the congregation, and I remember exactly what he sang.
Are you ready?
And he sang, "Are you ready?" And when he did that, I felt the power and the presence of God come upon me. It was like liquid warmth, and it came all over me. And I felt that, and I began to cry, and I heard a statement in my heart. It was God speaking to me, it was Jesus speaking to me, and it was a distinguishable thought. And it was, "I accept you as you are." And that's something I needed to hear, because as a Mormon, I was not feeling accepted as I was. I was failing the standard. But here, Jesus, before I even accepted him, before I knew him the correct way, he was saying, "I accept you as you are." And so one of the ladies in the church, she sat down next to me, because I was obviously being touched by God, crying and everything. And she asked me if I would like to receive Jesus into my heart. And I said yes. And she prayed me through the traditional sinner's prayer, and I meant it with all my heart. And then she said this, she said, "Would you like to be baptized in the Holy Spirit?" Now, I knew about the term, but I didn't know what it meant. Mormons, we didn't have that in the Mormon church, obviously. And I said, yes. And I began to speak in tongues.
Did she tell you to speak in a supernatural?
No, she didn't.
It just bubbled out of you.
Yeah, it just came right out.
So you get settled in the faith, but you must have had a problem with your Mormon stepdad.
I did. He didn't come to us, he didn't come to that church service, obviously. He wasn't going to have anything to